Are live. Why is the orientation locked? I don't know. So apparently I can't do this the way I want to do this, because for some reason the orientation is locked. I do not know why, and I apologize. For those of you who don't know, hi, my name is Miss Mandy. My name is the Nerd Room, and I do this live stream. Well, it was supposed to be every week, but it hasn't been happening for a while. I went to my Coke, but where I go over all the shows I'm watching during the season. It was supposed to be every week, but obviously, welcome to him. But obviously, it hasn't been every week, and I apologize for that. And we are way, way far behind. So I'm just gonna quick wrap up the old shows, because I still have the old shows in the mug. But I'm gonna quick wrap up the winter shows, and then we're just gonna jump right into the spring, not spring. Why did I say spring? Spring. The spring shows. We're gonna jump right into the spring shows. So, starting with Sugar Apple Fairy Tale. Really dull. Not interesting. I kind of thought it would be, but here's the thing. I was hoping that they would do more with the slavery aspect. Like, I was hoping they'd actually touch on the fact that, she buys the conceit of Sugar Apple Fairy Tale is that she decides she wants to go to this place. I forgot why, but she essentially buys a servant to take her there. And of course the servant is really hot, because obviously this is a romance. And he's really sexy, and I get major Sugar Chara vibes from this relationship, but I'm not going to go into that. He is very bitter, and he's very distrustful, because humans have treated him like shit for his entire life, and he's basically been a slave to every single person he comes across. And they don't really go into that much. They don't really go very deeply into, like, him or his distrust of Anne or the slavery aspect. Mostly it's just Anne making candy. And I know people are going to be like, well, it's deeper. It is deeper than that. But it's also not. And it's very hard to explain, because it feels like this show is dipping its toes in the water, but it doesn't actually want to put its feet in, because it's scared that it's going to fuck it up. It's scared that it's going to not handle it well. I think that's how I put it. So it doesn't dip its foot all the way in, and instead it just kind of sits in the kiddie pool. And I think that's extremely disappointing. If you're not going to handle the subject matter, don't make a show about that subject matter. Don't make a show about a fairy being sold into slavery if you're not going to discuss the idea of the fairy being sold into slavery. And to be honest, he's the only likable character in the entire show. The main character is one of those people who you're supposed to feel bad for, because she's like, she's very ignorant, and she thinks, it's not so bad, and I can fix it, I can change slavery, I can make it, but she never actually does that. She never actually does anything to improve the situation. And not only that, it comes across as, like, those movies where the black person is being like I love Hidden Figures, and I know this is going to be an offshoot, but I love Hidden Figures. But movies like that, where the white person does all the work to fix the problem, and like they convince everybody to let the black person eat lunch with them, and they convince everybody, oh, you know, she's not so bad, and that's the vibe I'm getting from this show. Is, oh, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna fix this problem. Except she doesn't. There's also her childhood friend who is awful, but honestly, his relationship with her and their bratty sibling rivalry is probably the best part of the show. Like their cattiness towards each other is actually really fun and really entertaining. Like she sticks her tongue out at him. She legitimately sticks her tongue at him, and it's really funny. And it's actually really funny. So, yeah, there's that. The fairies are obnoxious. All the men in this show are grade A misogynistic douchebags. Even the one guy who, you know, basically ropes her into helping make. There's this one part that I actually do like, and it's they go to this place, and the guy wants them to make a confection for him. Only it's because he misses the woman who died, and the fairy he loved who died, and he wants to make a confection to honor her memory. And that was actually really sweet. But other than that, the show was just boring, and it was like mostly her making candy. And they didn't touch on any of the subject matters that I think they should have touched on. There wasn't really a plot. It was just going from point A to point B. And it was really boring. And I'm sad because the art is really pretty, and I really wanted it to work. Misfitted Demon King Academy. This is on hiatus again. I'm not sure I'm going to pick this back up. Here's the thing. This show, it has a lot of good ideas, but it's one of those shows that's more concerned about world building. And not just world building, but like setting up a bunch of little plot threads that's going to come back like much later. And by the time those plot threads come back, I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. Like, oh, you know, the girl, they're trying to figure out currently how this girl died. I'm not really sure how this has to do with the villain of the story. The villain of this season is a girl who's like half spirit. I don't know what this has to do with anything. I don't know what I don't know what this has to do with anything. I'm sorry. I know I'm struggling to think of what to say about this because it's really pretty. It has really good art. And I actually like, and I know this is going to shock a lot of people, I actually like Yuta Uemura better. Don't get me wrong, I like Tatsuhisa Suzuki, but Yuto, in my opinion, has a voice that just fits better. Like, he just fits better. And now we have the class, like, they go to this tree, and at this tree, they're instructed to take a test, but for some reason, and but somebody tampers with the test, and then we know they're all gonna pass because Anos is a powerhouse, and that's one of my biggest problems. I like the idea of a character who's kind of overpowered, who can just obliterate everybody, but at the same time, I like the idea of other characters getting a chance to shine, and I don't think this show does a good job with it. I don't think this show does a good job balancing between the powerful character, because other characters get a chance to fight, but their fights don't matter. Their fights don't have any impact. And it ends up just, it's a lot of little, basically, it's a lot of little plot points, like they go to a tree, and there's also a bunch of cultists who come in and steal and try to do something, and then he has a magical duel with somebody, and it's just a whole bunch of little plot threads that probably won't be relevant for a long time. And it gets very interesting. I call it plot hopping, basically, where you can't decide what you want to do. And it's not an arc, because an arc is beginning, middle, and end. These do not have an end. These are just fight person A, and then immediately fight to person B, cut to person B who has nothing to do with person A, and then fight person B, but then person C shows up in the middle of the fight and is like, hey, I'm here, fight me instead. So they fight person C, and then person A is like, oh, hey, it's all over the place. And it's really sad because I wanted to like this show. Season 1 was pretty solid, although season 1 was a lot of them playing Capture the Flag, if I have to admit it. It's not cohesive, basically. And I wish it was cohesive, because if it was cohesive, I think a lot more people would enjoy it. Let me move on. Endo and Kobayashi Live. The problem with Endo and Kobayashi Live is that 90% of the show was not actually about the visual novel. I said throughout the run for this show, I think this show would have done much better if we never saw Endo and Kobayashi. If they were just two omnipotent voices that the other characters in the game could hear, and they could direct the characters, and they could be part of the game, but we never saw them. We were only focused on the game plot, and their commentary provides a little bit of comic relief. Because they spent so much time on them, the actual game plot suffered drastically, because it felt rushed. It felt like nothing of substance actually happened. And it felt like none of the characters got mostly any development. Like Liza, she has some kind of witch, but we don't know what it is. We don't know why it's there. We don't know. There's a side character who's this kid who's studying to be a magician. We don't know anything about him. He's barely in the show. I don't know why he's there. He's barely in the show, and I'm not sure why he shows up, because he's not relevant in like any way, shape, or form. The main character barely shows up. She's there a little bit, but like most of the characters don't add anything, is what I'm trying to say. They have no purpose, and the game plot just feels like it was an afterthought. As we just watch Endo and Kobayashi basically develop crushes on each other. And don't get me wrong, the idea of two people developing feelings for each other, bonding over a visual novel, is not a bad idea. The problem is you can't balance both the visual novel plot and the main plot. It just doesn't work. One of them's going to suffer. And in this case, it was the game plot. The the B plot became the A plot, and the A plot became the B plot, basically. Let me see. Buddy Daddies. I love this show. I think this show is adorable. I think it's fun. I think the show is probably my favorite show of this season, I think. It is everything that Spy Family aspires to be. It is cute. It is wholesome. It is action-packed. Their relationship with Miri is fucking adorable. They actually act like parents. They actually act, we're not left wandering around doing nothing for like. And don't get me wrong, Anya is cute. I think Anya is adorable. But the thing about Miri is there to be an actual character instead of a plot device. Not only that, but we actually forward the plot in this show. Whereas in Spy Family, it just feels like they're kind of pandering. And also, I have to agree with somebody else who said, I don't like the idea that who is supposed to be an assassin is now just reduced to being a mom. Is now literally just reduced to being a mom, and her whole personality is being a mother to Anya. I don't like that. I think I wouldn't say necessarily it's misogynistic, but actually, yeah, I kind of would, because it's kind of misogynistic to think that a woman's only role in life is to be a mom. That's actually is kind of misogynistic. So, I don't hate Spy Family. I wish it would do something with its plot, but this show is much better. I would like a sequel where Miri, basically becomes an assassin and doesn't tell her parents. That's actually kind of cute. That would be a really adorable idea. I don't think they're gonna do that, but I would love that idea actually. But I don't think that's gonna happen. Buddy Daddy's best show of the season. Funny, wholesome, adorable, actiony. Miri's mom can suck a dick. I don't care if she's dead. She's awful. High Card. I wanted to like this show so damn much. But the thing about this show is that it didn't develop a plot until like episode 10. For the first 9 episodes, we don't really get anything. We're introduced to a lot of characters. Some of whom I like. I love Chelsea. Some of whom just are there and they don't do anything. We get some things about Finn's past, but like the person who does it, if I recall, just comes out and is like, oh yeah, I burned down your orphanage and I killed your parents. There's no mystery to it. He just states it. And then we get something about Chris kidnapping his sister. For what reason? I don't remember. But, like, I think they're going to do another season. The power card element is interesting. But the only person I actually found even remotely interesting in terms of the actual card, well, 2, are the woman who's basically a genocider show. Like there's no comparing it. She's literally genocider show. She develops this. She changes into a different person when she's exposed to violence. They're the same person. Also, the guy who could kill people with marbles. I actually think that's a really cool power. But other than that, I did not find any of the powers interesting. I did not find any of the plot interesting. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. I wish they had done more with the idea of different people having different cards, because the idea of, they'd have to fight different card holders, and those different card holders had different. That would have been more interesting, basically. Hero Sky Precure, we'll get to that in The sequel, Ours no Kyoju. Oh my god, Ours no Kyoju. Okay. As with the last one, the problem with Ours no Kyoju is that we don't know shit about anything that happened. We don't know why the bad guy was doing experiments. We don't know why there are giant monsters. We don't know why people can form like contracts, basically persona contracts. We spend 90% of the series just hopping from village to village, picking people up like Pokemon, and like we that's it. That's literally it. The villain was fun, but he just gets eaten out of nowhere. Like literally, he's just like there, and then suddenly he gets eaten. Which, what was the point then? He was a fun villain. He was entertaining. I liked him. He was probably the only character I actually liked. And then the girl is like sick, and then she's gonna die, and then she's not gonna die. Maybe the show never makes it clear what happens with her, and maybe she was like the ritual half completed, so her lifespan expanded. I don't know, but then like some kind of big thing opens up. We're getting a second season. I don't want to watch any more of this show. I really, really don't. Unless another Seiyu shows up who is on my roster list, I'm probably not going to watch any more of this because this show was trash. This show was not the worst thing I've ever seen, but this show was not good. Bungo Stray Dogs 4. I will admit, I had some fun with this show. I still don't like the powers gimmick. I still don't think it's necessary. I don't understand why they're using it to the extent that they are. I don't like the idea, like the dude is falling in midair, and then suddenly another dude shows up and he's like, oh hey, you know, I'm gonna save you, like in midair, literally in midair. Why? That was really stupid, and it kind of took me out of the whole season because I was enjoying the season to that point. I actually was. I'm glad, as I like the hunting dogs. I missed Yuki Kaji being a villain. He was very much fun. I like the dynamic between Fyodor and Dazai. I like even though that really didn't amount to anything. I like the idea of the girl. Oh God, what was her name? Being forced to deal with her past trauma. I liked the idea that Ango could be an ally because generally speaking he is not, but he knows full well that the detective agency is innocent of what they've been framed for. I like the stakes. I thought it was very tense. But other than that, the power gimmick kind of reduces it from like a solid 9 to a 7. It's still good, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's great, and I really wish they wouldn't have done that because that just, it took me out of the whole damn experience. I'm sorry, it did. Why would you need that? But anyway, other than that, the only other one is, God, what was it? It was the the Great Snow Sea. I don't know why that's not back in my roster, but it's not. Truth be told, kind of didn't go anywhere. I mean, it ended with a giant battle, but like, why are they fighting over water? Why are they why are they fighting over water? Why are the earth drained? Did we ever find that out? I'm not sure. I don't really care. And frankly, I'm setting up for I'm setting up 1,000 Year Blood War might come back. I don't know if I want to watch that. Are there other ones? Oh, here they are. So here, setting up for spring. So that was winter. It was a very boring shit season. Buddy Daddies and Book on Stray Dogs are the two I genuinely liked. Oh God, is there any more? I can't remember if there's any more. I don't think any of these are bad enough that I would call it the worst of the year. Like in my new roster, I absolutely have one, and I'll explain to you when we get to it. That is like legitimately bad. But we will get to that when we get to that. Let me close my eyes because this is the spring roster. And we have, no, that's not one. Though, Tengoku Daimyoku. So, the conceit of Tengoku Daimyoku, or Heavenly Delusion, is that Earth has been decimated by something. We don't know what. There are giant monsters roaming all over the place, and basically, these two kids, Maru and, what's her name? I forget her name, Hiraku or something like that. They are wandering the earth looking for heaven. They don't know what that means, but basically they're trying to find heaven. And we find out that these two, they end up in this woman's house, and we find out that people are turning into monsters because this woman, finds out that the monster is her son, and she initially tries to defend the monster, but the monster eats her, obviously. And meanwhile, you also get this group of elementary school kids, and initially you think something, and initially this is giving me flashback to Smile of the Ars Notoria, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so boring, they're not going to do anything. But no, you start to get the sense that this facility is used for something, and at one point, one of the kids and his friend, they go and they discover this room full of babies, only these babies are not human. And you start to get the sense that these kids are being grown for something. I get the sense that these kids are being grown as clones because here's the thing. The main female, she was killed in a car crash, and she wakes up to discover that her brother is killed by a monster, and she wakes up to discover that they put her brother's brain inside of her head. And I get the distinct feeling that is what they are raising these kids to do. I get the distinct feeling, I could be wrong, but I get the feeling that these kids are being used as guinea pigs to form new human lives. Except something's going wrong, and these kids end up as like mutated monsters. But it's not bad. I don't usually like these types of shows, but I think this show has enough interest that it's holding my attention, which is rare. So it's something. It's at least I'm interested in it. Let me see. Oh my god, Skip to Loafer. So Skip and Loafer is fucking adorable. And I didn't think I was gonna like it. I know I'm saying that a lot. It's a thing. It's a common idea with me that I'm not gonna like a show, but then I watch it and I'm like, so the best way I could describe Skip and Loafer is, what if Libby from The Ghost and Molly McGee had an anime centered around her? And if you know Libby as a character, you will know exactly the kind of show this is. And it's awesome. And it's adorable. It's wholesome. It's sweet. I think it's a romance, because the guy in it, she likes him, I think. I'm probably in the future not going to include this type of show on my shorts, because I started it and then I was like, well, wait a minute. This show doesn't have enough substance to make a full review series out of. It's basically just fluff. It's adorable fluff, but it doesn't have a plot. Or it doesn't have a linear plot. So I'm probably gonna stop doing shows like this on my, but other than that, it's wholesome. If you like characters like Libby, you will love this show. I don't know why you wouldn't like Libby, because Libby's adorable, but if not, what's wrong with you? Mashal. Mashal is basically, somebody looked at J.K. Rowling and said, fuck you, I can do this a million times better. And I know a lot of people are going to make a comparison anyway. Literally, it steals all of its ideas from Harry Potter. But considering it's Harry Potter is made by a transphobe, I do not care. This show is great. This show is fun. It's adorable. It's the main character, Mash, is living with his grandfather, or his adopted grandfather, because obviously his grandfather found him as a baby, and he does not have any magic, so he's been training himself for years, and he is extremely fit and extremely strong, and his grandfather gets assaulted by somebody, and for whatever reason, he decides to make a deal with this person, who I'm assuming is the Lucius Malfoy stand-in, because I don't know what other character he'd be a stand-in for. But basically, the Lucius Malfoy stand-in is like, if you come to this school and enroll in this school, and Mash is like, okay. So he goes to this school, and he ends up meeting this kid who I'm just going to call the Neville stand-in, because I don't think we've met a Ron and Hermione yet, but he's basically the Neville stand-in, because he's a sweet kid, but he's constantly bullied, and he is very shy, and he's very, and he doesn't have a lot of self-confidence, so obviously that's going to change. The coin system is, the house point system is now coins. The Malfoy stand-in is named Tom. No, actually, no. Tom is the Oliver Wood stand-in. We have a Quidditch stand-in, which is basically Quidditch without the snitch. Let me think what else. The guy... Oh, there's a character with the last name Crown. Because this show stopped being subtle like 3 episodes ago. It's great, don't get me wrong. I love making fun of all the and the show is much better because it's basically Mash learning to not brute force all of his problems. So, because he's basically Saitama and Mob in a nutshell, which is funny because they were written by the same person. Saitama and Mob were written by the same person. But it's a fun show. Right now, we haven't met at all of the cast yet. We are gonna meet villains at some point, so they are gonna do something different. But let me move on. Hero Sky Precure. So, this came out last season, but essentially, this is Precure. I really like it. The main character is named Sora. Sky Sora. It's really on the nose, but it's fine. And she ends up in her friend's world. I don't know if, I forget what they called it, but she ends up in her friend's world, and her friend, Mashiro, I think her name is, the pink one. She ends up saving, saving oh my god, Ellie's adorable. An adorable baby from a giant hippo. I'm not kidding. I'm really not kidding. And they end up becoming Precure, and of course, you guys know the reason I watch this show. I'm watching this show is because this is the first official male Precure in the series. And he's very weird. And he's very adorable. And he's a literal bird. He's a literal bird. And he is trying to learn to fly. And he basically becomes the baby's protector, and it's really cute. And when I say he's a literal bird, like, he actually can poof back into this little chubby bird, like an actual. It's so weird, but it's kind of adorable. And I also like how the opening updates whenever they add a new Precure. Like, the opening changes just whenever they add a new. It's cool. And I'm guessing that the Mashiro's college friend, is going to be the last Precure. I mean, first of all, the Precure in the opening looks like her, and second of all, it's not going to be the old lady. So it probably is going to be. It's probably going to be her. But at this point, they're about to go back to Precure. Go back to Skyland. Because Skyland, they've managed to open up the portal to the baby, so the baby can go home. And I think Sora's gonna meet her childhood hero who's been referenced. Is there anything else? No. Oh yeah, Mashiro can't go back. Which is weird because. Actually, it's not weird because Mashiro has school and she has a life and she can use the tunnel, which is I don't know, which is really nice of her grandmother to let her do that, but she can't permanently go back, so we're gonna have to adjust to having two separate locations, which will be interesting to see how that plays out in terms of like Precure defense, because we're gonna have two separate lands to defense. I'm also curious to know what other villains they're gonna come up with, because the hippo was so much fun. I'm gonna miss the hippo. The hippo was fucking great. He was so much fun. Oh, funny. Honey, what's next? Ice Leave. Okay, so. First of all, the art in this show is beautiful. I love the art in this show. The idea of this show is that the main character, I think it's actually called I Got a Cheat Skill in another world and like I'm using it to better my life or something. I don't remember the full name. The name is long because it's a light novel and of course the name is long. So the main character is a boy who is to be nice is shy, very fat, very the kind of kid you would get bullied to hell and back. And he ends up falling into another world, and for whatever reason he ends up becoming he uses his skill points in the other world to become fit and very athletic. And I actually really liked the scene where he mutates into his new form, because that, I imagine that can't be pleasant. And usually it would just be like, oh yeah, I'm better now. No, you actually see his muscles change, and you see him, it's grotesque and it's so painful. And I love the fact that he doesn't notice at first. So he's walking around and everybody doesn't recognize him, but he's like, I don't understand. Why are you acting like, until he gets like, this isn't me, until he gets home and freaks out because he's a completely different person. Other than that, it's mostly him learning to better himself and learning to stand up for himself. And not only do I love the fact that he has to stand up for himself physically, but the new episode shows that he still needs to work on bettering himself mentally, because he's physically more fit, but he's still mentally a wreck. Because he's been bullied. Keep in mind, he's been bullied for years. He's been bullied for long ass time. So he needs to improve himself, and he needs to make himself, and even his siblings treat him like shit. That's how bad it is. There's also this weird plot about a princess in another world who decides she wants to marry him. I don't think it fits. I think it's very odd. I wish the show would cut that, and I wish the show would just focus more on him, because his journey into recovery and battling his demons is actually really neat. And this other, it feels like really shitty comic relief. Cause she keeps throwing herself into danger because she wants to be with him and she wants him to rescue her in this other world. So she keeps throwing herself into bad situations. It's really stupid. It's really stupid, and it's sad, because other than that, I would really like this show. But let me see what's next. Witch from Mercury. Here's the thing about Witch from Mercury. The first season ended with a bang. Like, a massive bang. And while I understand the need to take some time and recover, I don't think the show has done enough to explore what happened and explore like we just cut to the school and everything's back to normal. And it's like, you can't just leave us with nothing. You can't just leave us, with no wrap up to this. You can't just leave us with Suletta being just back to normal, her act of being how she was. That's not, it's whiplash, and it doesn't work. And we also get these two new girls. We don't know anything about the plot. I mean, like we know the Earthians are planning something, but we don't know what, and the show has not bothered to tell us. The show has not bothered to give any indication, because we know Nika's infiltrated the school, and we know that the one girl tries to kill her, but that's it. We don't know what. And it's sad because I want to like this show because I think this show looks very pretty. And I like the idea of a show with a little bit, with a Gundam in a school setting. I just wish the show would do a better job. And I know that we're only 14 episodes in, and I know people are going to be like, well, you gotta be patient. You gotta understand. I have ADHD, and I'm autism adjacent, so my patience is out the window. I don't have a lot of patience, and I have a very short attention span. So if a show takes a long time to get to the point, I lose interest like that. And I know a lot of shows are slow burn. I don't like slow burns. I like I don't want a show to rush, but I also like a show to tell its story without drip feeding. I don't like drip feeding. And this show feels like drip feeding because the show feels like it's only giving us, information when it feels like it. And it's frustrating. But moving on, Jigoku Raku. I have no idea what this show is trying to say. It is very weird. Even for anime, it's very weird. Like even for an anime series, it's very, what the fuck is going on? Because the idea of Jigoku Raku is the main character, Gabimaru, cannot die, and has been accused of murder, and he basically just wants to get back and reunite with his wife, which I think is very sweet. And I will be very sad if it turns out she's dead, because I want that to happen. I think that's very sweet, actually. But they end up on an island, and the island is full of, like, really weird mutated creatures, like giant monsters and giant weird designed beings. I don't know why. It couldn't just be a battle to the death. I wanted a battle to the death, like in episode 1, where they're like, okay, y'all can't, not all of you can, get onto the island, so you're gonna have to kill each other, and they all killed each other, and it was really, really fun. I hadn't had that much fun with an episode in a while. But I really wish they'd done that. The opening to the Marshall is currently stuck in my head, but that's another thing entirely. And I really wish they'd done that, but no, we have, like, mutated weird creatures, and it breaks your, well, it's not just that it breaks your suspension of disbelief, it's also that it's really boring that they went this route, because I wanted a much more, I wanted a battle royale. I did not want another survival, monsters kill people. We're meeting the characters, and I do like the idea of the brothers who, the one brother broke the other brother out of prison, and then there's the two. It is fun to guess who's gonna die. Like, I guess the fat kid is gonna die. I know that sounds mean, but I can't help it. I legit guess the fat kid is gonna die because I don't see him surviving long on the island. But that's it. It's basically survive monsters, and it's not interesting. Anyway, next one. Yushiga Shinda. I love the idea for this show. I'm worried that they're gonna do too much, make it mostly about fan service. But the idea for this show is that the main character Toka is a farmer, because of course he is, and he one day is visited by the hero, the land's hero. Only the hero ends up falling into one of his traps and dying. A necromancer decides to put that hero's his soul into Toka's body. Only Toka is now a corpse. Or no, she decides to put Toka's soul into the hero's body, which means that the hero is now a corpse. And I love this because that means that you get to play a lot with the visual effects of the Toka being like creepy and rotting and like undead and having to undead and rotting, and it's a really cool visual effect for a main character. And basically at this point they're trying to stop there's kinda. And they're trying to stop. I'm trying to see if I can find. They're trying to stop this creepy fetishy guy from kidnapping the princess, whose quirk is that she has a disease which is going to drain her mana. Well, actually, which is funny because so does the sister from Marshall, but we'll get to that. So she has to eat a lot. And basically the princess is a glutton. There's also a blonde character who looks like Lucy Heartfilia. I can't describe her any other way. She looks exactly like Lucy Heartfilia, except like in a fetish cosplay. But that's where we are. They're trying to stop this villain. It's mostly fan service. It's service, but it's a lot of fun. And I will admit, given between this and the cult one, because there's an anime out there who, hey, hi, how you doing? Glad to see somebody came in for at least a minute. Hello, Killer2569, hi. But yeah, so there's a cult anime where the main character is killed and then resurrected, killed by his parents who are in a cult. Good, I'm good. How's it going? How's life? We got a person. Hi, person. At least for the time being, we got a person. Hi, person. How you doing? He's good. And thank you for stopping by. You know, if even one is better than nothing. So, anyway, as I was saying, and the cult one, the main character is chucked off the ocean, literally chucked off into the ocean by his parents, and that scene was actually really funny. But then he like wakes up in the land with no gods and this really obnoxious god who resurrects him. And that's the entire reason I stopped watching, because that girl is fucking annoying. That god is so irritating. And I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I thought it was going to be a parody of like him trying to bring religion into a world without it, but nope, wasn't that. So this is what I'm watching instead, because this is a lot more fun and a lot more entertaining. I like the main character. He reminds me a little bit of Kazuma from two people. Hi, people. He reminds me a little bit of Kazuma from should I have started later? Is that why y'all are watching? Because I didn't start early enough. But he reminds me a lot of Kazuma from I can't. Konosuba. Kazuma from Konosuba. I don't like he does remind me a lot of Kazuma. So there's that. He's undead and he has to navigate life. But anyway, next one is going to be Mahjong Shoujo Magical Destroyers. I will personally admit the entire reason I stopped watching this show was a wholeheartedly stupid reason. And before I go into why I stopped watching this show, I want to say I really like, what's his name? I really like Makoto Furukawa as a voice actor. I think he's phenomenally talented. I think he's a beautiful singing voice. However, I do not think he works for this role. I think his voice does not fit. I think that it doesn't gel with the type of character they're trying to put across. And quite frankly, it took me out of the... Quite frankly, that voice and that character just kind of took me out of the experience. So basically, I couldn't pay attention. I was too busy thinking, why would you pick this character? I might go back and try it in dub, because there's inevitably going to be a dub, so I might go back and try it in dub. But other than that, before we get to the last one, I don't know what happened to it, but I had one for Dead Mount Death Play, or maybe I didn't. But essentially, Dead Mount Death Play is the newest work by Ryogo Narita. If you are familiar with Ryogo Narita, you know this is going to be a blast, because Bakano was a blast, Rara was a blast, I love Demon Slayer. It has, okay, that is you. I do not like Demon Slayer, but good for you. But good on you. You can like whatever you like. I'm not watching the new season. I have no interest in it, but good for you. But good for you. You like whatever you like. For the show and everything that happened, and it just fits. Good for you. I do not like Zenitsu. I think he's horrible. I think he's obnoxious. I think he ruins the entire show. I think people... I'm a little bit bothered about the earrings, but to be fair, that's like one thing out of a million things which I find wrong with the show. I love the demon fights. I think they're very good, but Zenitsu was awful, and I don't like I'm very tired of main characters who are with the I like to call the let's be friends disease, where every single person, you have to save every single person, and, oh, but she's your sister. Okay, well, I love my sister, but if my sister was a demon who wanted to eat me, her head's coming off. And then I'm probably going to go and, find the demon who killed her. In fact, that would be a much better plot for a show. A show where the main character had to kill a sibling or a parent who were turned into a demon, and then go and hunt down the demon who killed that person, him and who caused that, and bring them down. Had they done that, that would be a lot better if his whole motivation would be that he had to kill Nezuko, so he wanted to avenge her by hunting down the people who killed her. I like that idea. But Zenitsu kills any potential for the series has. Zenitsu is horrible. But anyway, Dead Mount Death Play is great. I really, really, really enjoy it. Okay, she's gone, but whatever. Okay. Dead Mount Death Play is great. I really, really, really enjoy it. So the premise is that the main character, Polka, was... I don't know if Polka was the demon itself or the little vial of pink goo, that the brain of the demon. But anyway, he was resurrected from a mythical demon creature, and he ends up in the body of a kid in New York who is somehow connected to the mob, because of course he is, because it's fucking, it's Rio Canard, everything is connected to the mob. And he meets and ends up killing a very hilariously psychopathic young lady. And now they're gonna basically go and do and help people, and they're gonna, well, they're not really gonna fight crime. It's not really crime fighting. It's more like it's more like they're gonna help people solve their problems, basically through probably a lot of brute force and a lot of violence. But there's that. I still need to make a card for it, but other than that, that's it for that one. And we end with quite possibly one of the worst shows, or one of the worst intros I have ever seen. My Home Hero, or definitely a contender for worst show of the year. My Home Hero is the story of a main character whose name I could not be fucked to actually remember. And he is a loser, basically, who is a very weak-willed and cowardly man. And you think that, and the premise is that he ends up killing her abusive boyfriend and growing a backbone because of it. And the idea is good. The problem is the execution. This was executed so badly. Oh my god. So, essentially, he meets his daughter, and they don't even, they don't even exchange any actual dialogue. He's just like, hey, and they're just kind of sitting there. And I get the feeling they're trying to go for that they don't have a relationship, but they don't really establish that. So they're sitting there, and he's like, oh, there's like, oh, how do you get that? And she's like, oh, I ran into a door, which is code word for somebody beat the crap out of me. And he walks outside, and I'm not even kidding you, he sees a dude walking down the street, loudly talking about beating up his girlfriend, and for some reason assumes that it's the same guy, which, first of all, that is the most contrived way to set up spousal abuse I've ever fucking seen. Oh, hey, nobody does that. Nobody walks down the street and loudly says, oh yeah, I'm gonna go. Unless he's with his friends, nobody does that on the phone. I've known plenty of abusers, and I can guarantee you, even the worst of them do not walk down the street and talk about, oh yeah, I went home and I gave my girl a few walking down the street in the middle of fucking public. It's so laughably stupid. And then he assumes it's the same guy. Now, I'm not saying that someone who beats on their wife doesn't deserve to be punched in the face with a pair of brass knuckles. They do. But you don't know it's the same guy. You just randomly murdered someone who you assume, because he and his girlfriend have the same first name. There are a million Harukas in this planet. For all you know, this could have been a completely separate... What? What the hell? This could have been a completely separate dude. You don't know. You don't know it's the same dude. And for all you know, this dude is a serial killer who is packing a bunch of heat. You don't know. So we're just supposed to assume this guy walking down the street, and of course he murders him. But I only know that because that's the premise of the show. Oh, they're gone. Whatever. I only know that because that's the premise of the show. I actually stopped after that because I was so irritated with how laughably contrived. And not only that, this girl, her only purpose is to sit down and be like, oh yeah, he abused me. Like, do you know how insensitive that is to actual abuse victims? To make abuse the entire central focus of their character? Like, she gets no personality. She gets no actual dialogue outside of talking about getting the crap beat out of her. And his wife is also submissive and subservient because of course she is. It's disgusting. And frankly, I got 10 minutes into the show. And I wouldn't even normally bring this up because normally shows I don't finish, I don't watch. But I didn't want to watch anymore. I was so irritated. I'll tell you though, the shows I am watching outside of the main show because I'm also watching a bunch of other shows. I'm watching what I like to call the Gaku no Mikomo 3, and basically that is Gintanya no Shoka, which is really dull and has no plot and is basically the stereotypical bratty, obnoxious kid character, like Louise from A Year of Zero. Why would you make another one? She's so nasty, and she's so mean, annoying. But wait, and some of the stories don't make sense. Like there's one where the main character and this Dalian, they go to this woman's house, and this woman is there, and they haven't really explained what the tomes do, but basically she has a curse in her bloodline that allows her to makes her murderous. I have no fucking clue. I really don't know. I don't know, but she somehow it leads to them making it. I do like the one about the plan where the robbers break into the house and they are trying to steal this plant, but it turns out that the book, the pages are actually the petals, and the plant itself is the tome. I like that. I thought that was very neat, and they get eaten because of it, and I actually really like that. But in addition to that, what's it called? Asura Crayon, which is your typical 2000 anime. Basically, kid with no personality gets sucked into a battle over this machine, and his friend is dead and nobody else can see him. Friend is dead, but nobody else can see her except for him. And like the school, they're all battling over this. I don't know why. The show hasn't bothered to explain it yet. None of the characters are interesting. Well, except for the teacher. Except for the one teacher who I really like, who's the stereotypical cool Kuderi character. I like her a lot. But, other than that, and Shotaro Murakumo, who is the reason I watched this show in the first place, who I saw his name, I was like, ooh, that's interesting. Because we don't hear from him a lot anymore. But, other than that, I don't really care. However, I'm watching Strike the Blood. And Strike the Blood, in my opinion, is genuinely good. And it reminds me a lot of Index. The main character is named Kojo, and he is a vampire because prior to the beginning of the series, the previous the progenitor, I don't know what these terms mean, but basically the previous progenitor made him a vampire, and now they have to and now this girl basically ends up having to follow him around and protect him and prevent him from causing catastrophic damage. And he basically ends up, it's basically your typical battle royale with mythical elements. And I love that kind of anime. Like with Index and the magic users in this show, and it's like vampires and his now they've been invited to a boat. I don't like the sexual assault references. I don't like the fact that the first time he decided to take her blood, he decided to just hold her down and force himself. I don't like that, but that seemed to be a one-off. Hopefully that was a one-off. But anyway, they've been invited on a boat trip for this other this other vampire lord, and that's where I left off. Slayers, obviously, Slayers is great. Zelgoddess is one of my favorite anime characters of all time because I love the type of character who just does not want to put up with the other character's bullshit and is just like, can I go home? I don't care about this. Basically, the fuck all of you, I'm going home type of character. I love that. And I'm also watching Lost Universe, because Lost Universe is essentially the same story, except now it's set in space. And it's written by the same author, so take that as you will. But that is it for this week. We shall be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week. Hopefully from now on, I'm only going to do it 1 week at a time. I don't want to do it, like 3 weeks out like I have been. But, that is it for this week. I still need to do the Tokyos, the Super Sentai ones. I think I'm going to turn that into a live stream also because it's much easier for me to get my thoughts out live on camera than have to do it through a video. And it also saves me a lot of room. So this channel might just become a live stream channel, depending on how things work out. But that is it for this week, and I will see you next week starting with episode 5.